Hi, this is Theo from PuckerBlocks.com. Today I want to show you how you can mix grays and blacks using a standard watercolor palette. And this is what you're going to see in this video, how I would mix very dark colors like this one. It's almost black, and also how you can achieve gray tones like this. I also show you what's the differences between using the black that's supplied in the palette box versus the black or gray that you mix yourself. To mix black, you can use three primary colors: yellow, red, and blue. In this case here, I have Ultramarine blue, Queen Gold, and Transparent Pyrrole Orange. These are all warm colors. They mix together to form a warm black. You can use different primary colors like Hansa Yellow Medium, Phthalo Blue, and Queen Rose, and you get a cool black. So you can use any combinations of primary colors, yellow, any red, any blue, but you have to mix them in different parts. For example, it might be 1 part yellow, 2 parts red, or 3 parts blue, or 1.5 parts yellow, 2 parts red, or 3 parts blue. The first mixture I want to show you is permanent Alizarin crimson and Phthalo green. Phthalo green is this very bright green color that normally I do not use it on its own. I've already pre-wet the paint so that they can dissolve easily. Let me show you what's Phthalo green. So it's a very bright green color. Now when I mix it with permanent Alizarin crimson, it's going to give me a neutral, almost a black. And the reason is because green is a complement of red, and Alizarin crimson is sort of a red color. So I mix a bit on the palette, and I also mix a bit on the paper itself. You can see the mixture coming together. Of course, if you want a really clean wash, then you can mix it very completely on the palette itself, just to get a very clean, flat wash. But sometimes you want the colors to show through. For example, in this area here, you can still see the green showing through, you can still see the Alizarin crimson showing through, and that's something quite interesting because you do not get this kind of colors showing through when you're using pure black. Okay, so let's skip and go to the next color, which is the very common color French Ultramarine and burnt Sienna. This is a very classic mixture. A lot of painters, they like to use this mixture, and I learned this from books that I borrowed, and a lot of books they recommend this combination as well. So this is the warm blue, the French Ultramarine, and when you mix it with burnt Sienna, it gets a very nice sort of a gray color. So in this case, the mixture is not very clear, but let me mix it cleanly on the palette and show you. You can see that it darkens very quickly. And of course, if you really want to mix a lot of pigment, then you can get a very dark color. Close to black, but it's not exactly black because the colors of each pigment will show through. So you can still get to see the blue there, but if I add more burnt sienna, the blue will start to fade away. So this is a very nice combination. This is something that I always use for my clouds. I want dark clouds. This is the combination that I go for. Now the third combination that I use is Phthalo blue and Cadmium Red. Phthalo blue, of course, is a very bright color. You do not use it on its own like this. You have to mix it. And when you mix a cool blue with a warm red, you get a very dull sort of a purple color. But in this case, you can get quite black almost black color, because Phthalo blue and Cadmium Red are very strong colors. Let me mix a lot of pigment and let you see what's in it. So a bit of blue still shows through. Let me add a bit more red. I think I still need a bit more red. In this case, I'm using red and blue, which usually would give you purple. In this case, it does, but because of the color bias, the color temperature, they work together to give you this very dark color. Maybe I can add a bit of yellow as well, just to make it even more black. Reason is because red, yellow, blue gives you black. So sometimes you do need to add a bit of the primary colors to give you that. So you can see this is already very, very black. And if I dilute, add some water and dilute, I can get grays. Let me show you the grays that I can get with the three mixtures just now. Let's add some water. This is permanent Alizarin crimson and Phthalo green. French ultramarine and burnt sienna. You have to wash a brush cleanly first, and finally Cadmium Red and Phthalo blue. Actually, it doesn't matter whether or not you use Phthalo blue, the exact pigment that I'm using right now. As long as you use, let's say, a cool version, a cool blue and a warm red, you're going to get something like this. You're using some blue, warm blue and a brown color, you're going to get something like this. And if you use a cool green and a cool red, you're going to get something like this. So the exact pigment that you use doesn't matter as much, but you really need experimentation to get the grays and the blacks that you like. Now I'm going to show you the differences between using a pure gray or pure black versus a gray or black that you mix yourself. When I first started out, I used grays together with the colors and it didn't feel right. And over a year or so, I realized that gray is not a color that you should mix with other colors. Let me show you why. Let me just paint the hair of this guy black. I'm using ivory black here. Ivory black is a single pigment black, so there are no other colors in it. It can appear to be a bit dead because of that. So that's ivory black. Let me paint the background as well. The background I will use Payne's Gray. I do not have Payne's Gray in this particular palette, so I took the Payne's Gray from some other palette. Oops. Payne's Gray is a color that is made out of several pigments. It's quite close to black, but you really need to use a lot of pigment to make it appear as if it's black. But let's see the effect it has on this sketch here when I use it as a background. That is Payne's Gray. On the other side of this sketch, I'm going to use a pure gray. A pure gray is something maybe like a graphite. This is water-soluble graphite, so I'm just going to add some water in it to dissolve this before I mix it onto the surface. The water-soluble graphite is actually quite close in color to the ivory black. Okay, let's wait for that to dry first. And Meanwhile, we'll paint the bottom. So which black or gray should I use? It really depends. For me, it depends on the colors that are already in the sketch itself. For example, here I have Alizarin crimson that I used to mix this particular purple violet color. So in this case, likely I'll go for Alizarin crimson and phthalo green. But since I want to paint the hair black, I do not want to use Alizarin crimson because some of the red might actually show through. In this case, I'll go for ultramarine and burnt sienna instead. So let me use some of the mixtures just now. If you want the colors to show through, try not to mix them too cleanly on the palette. Usually, sometimes I would mix blue on one side and burnt sienna on the other side, and then I will go in and brush it up. So if I want a bit more blue, I can do so just by adding more blue. If I want more burnt sienna, I can go in and do that, add more burnt sienna. The year, it's a bit distracting. Okay, now I'm going to color the background. The background, I'm going to use the same color as well, burnt sienna and ultramarine. But in this case, I'm just going to use it, add a lot of water to dilute it a lot. Maybe a bit more burnt sienna, ultramarine. Here you can see the ultramarine showing through. Okay, on the other side as well. On the other side, maybe I'll try phthalo, the phthalo version, phthalo green and Alizarin crimson. Wow. Let me add a bit Alizarin crimson to show you the difference. Add a bit more phthalo green to it. Another thing I want to show you is how you can mix the shadow tone. Let's do the shadow tone for the shirt, for example. I have some purple that's mixed up here. Maybe I'll go in and mix a bit more. Yellow ochre and purple. You can add a complement to yellow ochre and purple, so yellow, alizarin crimson, and I'll just add a bit of blue in this. So this is the one that I mixed with the pure color, so it appears darker. Maybe a bit here as well. Okay, that's all. And for this one, I'm going to mix alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, and black. So you can use black to dial down the color. In this case, maybe I'll try, yeah, I'll use black. You can see almost the same effect. But we not use too much of the black because it really sucks the color out of whatever sketch you already have. This is almost dry now. I'll let you compare which one you like. This one is the one mixed with the pure gray. This is water-soluble graphite. And this one is ivory black. I find that the black here is a bit striking, it's too glaring. Usually you do not use watercolor pigments straight out from the pan like that. You try to mix it, and in this case I use black straight out from the pan, and it appears a bit very glaring when you compare it side by side with other colors. Payne's Gray is quite alright. Payne's Gray is a mixture of 3 pigments. Graphite is the same as ivory. I find it a bit too glaring as well. Let's compare this one. This one is grays mixed with different colors. So which one do you like better? Personally, of course, I would prefer this one. You have more variations of colors in the gray tones itself. You have more variations of color in the darks, the almost black itself. Another important thing to note is you do not need to use black to convey the idea that hair is black. So I use blue and burnt sienna to convey that the hair is black, rather than just using pure black. In this particular sketch, I use only phthalo blue and a warm red. I think the warm red is Transparent Pyrrole Orange. And I use phthalo blue and a warm red to mix this light, almost cool gray. And if I add a bit more red, you can see that immediately becomes even darker and more neutral. Or you can use a lot of pigments, you get this very dark shade like that. So this sketch only uses 2 colors. For this 2-page spread of my drawing equipment, I use mainly French Ultramarine and burnt sienna. I think you can see quite clearly the individual colors showing through here. You can see the blue from the Ultramarine and also the brown from the burnt sienna, and also here as well. So this is what I like about mixing your own grays. You have individual colors showing through. It's more lively than, let's say, colors like this, which is just flat colors. Flat colors are alright, but sometimes you want a variety in our colors. For this sketch, I want to point you to the green color, which is mainly phthalo green, but I use Alizarin crimson to dial down the green to make the darks really very dark here. And for these gray tones here, I think I use a mixture of 3 colors. I'm not exactly sure which 3 colors, cannot remember that, but the reason I know it's 3 colors is because when I look at this gray here, I'm not sure you can see it, there's a bit of a yellow inside, so I definitely use yellow. And in order to mix a gray, I would have to use red and blue as well. So this is slightly from this red, and the blue is most likely phthalo blue. To understand the colors that you have, you should go ahead and paint some color swatches. Let me show you some that I've painted. As mentioned earlier, the exact pigment that you use is not very important. Here I use a cool green and a cool red. So these are the variations of dark colors, gray tones that I can get. Here I use a warm red and a cool blue. A warm blue and a brown color. So you can use whatever colors that you have and just go and paint these color swatches. Not just paint them, but try and use them in your personal sketches as well. Let's take a look at the 3 mixtures that we painted earlier in the video. They're almost dry now, so what I like about these mixtures is even though they are dark, you can still see the individual colors showing through, and that is what I think really gives the color its characteristics. They are very lovely. So what you can do to learn fast on your own is, when you're drawing next time, draw 2 versions of the same sketch and paint one with ivory black, a pure black or a pure gray, and the other version you paint it with a gray or black that you mix it yourself, and then you compare the result, and the difference will be quite significant, and you'll be able to choose which version you like more. That's all for today's video. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me in the comment section below. I'll also post some links to things that I talked about earlier. And remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I'll be posting more sketching videos relating to pen, ink, watercolor, sketchbook features, art product reviews. Thanks and have a nice day.